There's a moment in life when you look around and realize something. Others are ahead of you. They've built more, learned more, earned more. They seem to have it figured out, and there you are behind. Maybe you started late. Maybe you wasted time. Maybe you didn't take things seriously when you should have. Whatever the reason, the clock kept ticking, and now you're looking at the gap. Now here's the truth. Life doesn't pause for you to catch up. It keeps moving. Time doesn't wait. So if you're late to the game, the first thing you have to do is kill the excuses. Excuses are the luxury of the comfortable, and the latecomer has no such luxury. You can't blame your parents, your environment, your boss, your education, your past. You can't say, if only I had known this sooner. You know it now. That's what matters. The moment you recognize you're behind is the moment you have a choice to make: stay behind or get serious. See, urgency is the great equalizer. Urgency doesn't ask how old you are, where you come from, or what you did wrong yesterday. Urgency says, start now, move now, no delays. When you're behind, you don't have the luxury of coasting. You don't get to hit snooze. You don't get to say, I'll get to it eventually. You don't have eventually. You have now, you have this moment. And what you do with this moment will determine whether you stay behind or start catching up. The world responds to urgency. It doesn't care about your story. It pays attention to your effort. You have to move like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Maybe not your physical life, but your financial life, your professional life, your emotional life, your relationships, your dreams. All of that is on the line. And when you understand that, you start to move different. You speak different. You use your time differently. Starting late is not the end, it's the beginning of a faster, harder journey. But if you take it seriously, you can gain ground. In fact, people who start late and move with urgency often pass those who started early and got comfortable. Because there's something about hunger that makes you more dangerous. Hunger creates creativity. Hunger pushes past comfort. Hunger silences doubt. And when you combine hunger with urgency, you become a force. But let's be honest, urgency is not natural. Comfort is. Comfort whispers, take your time. Urgency shouts, get moving. Comfort says, you're tired, relax. Urgency says, you've wasted enough time already. If you let comfort lead, you'll delay. You'll justify laziness with good reasons, but none of those reasons change your situation. You'll say things like, I'm figuring it out, or I need to feel ready, or I'm not sure where to start. But the truth is, those are just excuses dressed in nice words. And remember, excuses are lies we tell ourselves to feel better about not trying. So what does urgency actually look like? It looks like a schedule with no wasted hours. It looks like staying up late to read while others scroll. It looks like saying no to every distraction that doesn't move the needle. It looks like cutting people off who drain your time. It looks like setting goals and reviewing them every morning. It looks like sacrifice. It looks like discipline. It looks like someone who's done making excuses and ready to claim their life. You see, when you truly feel urgency, your behavior changes. You no longer need motivation. You operate from necessity. You don't need someone to check on you, yourself, directed. You don't talk about what you're going to do. You just do it. There's a speed that shows up in your life when you decide you're tired of being behind. That speed multiplied by consistency will change everything. Some people confuse urgency with panic, but they're not the same. Panic is blind movement. Urgency is focused movement. Panic says, do something, anything. Urgency says, do what matters. Now, there's strategy in urgency. There's clarity in it. Urgency requires you to prioritize. It asks, what's the one thing I can do today that makes everything else easier or unnecessary? That's the kind of thinking that helps late starters accelerate. Not busy work, impact work, not random action, intentional effort. People who start late often think they need more time, but what they actually need is more intention. You don't need 10 extra years. You need to stop wasting the next 10 minutes. That's how fast change happens, not in years, in moments, in decisions, in urgency. You have to develop a mindset that says, if I don't fix this now, I'll never catch up. That's not fear, it's clarity. It's truth. Time is ruthless. It doesn't feel sorry for you, but it does reward you when you respect it. And urgency is how you show respect for time. You don't waste it. You don't treat it casually. You treat every hour like it's currency, because it is, and if you're behind, your currency is already low. You're in debt to time, and the only way to pay off that debt is with consistent urgency. You don't have time to wait for inspiration. You don't have time to perfect your plan. Just start. Take messy action, learn on the way, adjust as you move, but move. You'd be surprised how much progress happens when you simply stop pausing. People ask, but what if I fail? If you're starting late, failure isn't the problem. Inaction is. If you fail while moving, you learn. If you wait and do nothing, you stay where you are. The greatest risk isn't doing too much, it's doing too little. Playing safe is expensive when you're behind. There's also a trap that late starters fall into. They start comparing, they look around and see people ahead of them and feel discouraged. Don't do that. Comparison slows you down, focus speeds you up. You can't win their race. You've got your own, and the only way you close the gap is by locking in. Tunnel vision, urgency, action. Urgency doesn't come from hype. It comes from understanding cost, the cost of not changing, the cost of staying stuck, the cost of regret. That's the price you're paying every day you delay, and once you truly feel that cost, you don't need a pep talk. You don't need a reminder. You become your own motivation. Everybody wants success. Everybody says they want more out of life, more money, more freedom, more opportunity, more time, and most people are sincere when they say it. They intend to do well. They hope for better. They talk about their goals, but life doesn't respond to good intentions. It rewards preparation. That's the difference between wishing and winning. The world isn't moved by what you mean to do. It moves for those who are ready. Intentions are cheap. Everybody's got them, but preparation, that's where the price is paid. That's the work in the dark. That's the discipline behind the scenes. That's the early morning reading, the late night writing, the practice when no one's watching. Preparation is the thing nobody applauds, until the spotlight hits, and suddenly everyone says, you're lucky. But that wasn't luck, that was labor. Consistent, focused labor long before anyone was paying attention. Intentions make you feel good. Preparation makes you good. There's a difference. You can sit around all day thinking about the life you want. You can talk about it with friends. You can daydream about the car, the house, the lifestyle. You can create vision boards, follow motivational pages, write down affirmations. But if you're not preparing, none of that matters, because at the end of the day, what determines your results isn't what you hope for, it's what you've built the skill for. You don't get to demand outcomes you haven't trained for. That's the law. You can want to be a great speaker, but have you prepared your voice, your message, your confidence? You can want financial freedom, but have you learned how money works, how to invest, how to resist impulse? You can want to be fit, but have you trained your body, your eating habits, your mental toughness? Wanting is universal. Preparation is rare. The marketplace doesn't care about your dreams, it cares about your value. And value is built in private, not in public. You increase your value through preparation, by becoming sharper, wiser, more competent, more consistent. That's what people pay for. That's what opportunity notices. Doors don't open because you want them to. Doors open because you're ready when they do. There are two kinds of people, those who wait to be chosen and those who prepare to be undeniable. The first group is always hoping. The second group is always working. One leaves their future to chance, the other takes responsibility. One waits for signs, the other creates signals. Preparation puts you in control. It gives you leverage. It puts you in the driver's seat. When you prepare, you stop hoping for the right conditions and start becoming the right person. You stop needing permission. You stop needing perfect timing. You realize that everything you're waiting for is waiting on your readiness. The job isn't delayed, it's just looking for someone who's already capable. The opportunity isn't hiding, It's just bypassing people who haven't prepared. See, the world runs on proof, not potential. Potential is what you could do. Preparation is what you're ready to do, and there's a big difference. People love being told they have potential, but potential without preparation is just wasted opportunity waiting to happen. It creates false confidence. You feel like you should be doing more, but you're not ready for more, and deep down you know it. Preparation builds confidence the right way. Real confidence doesn't come from pep talks. It comes from practice. It comes from hours invested, reps repeated, pages studied, fears faced. Confidence comes from knowing I've done the work, I've paid the price, I'm not winging it, I'm walking in prepared. That's the kind of confidence that's unshakable. That's the kind of confidence that attracts results. Too many people live in someday. Someday they'll launch the business. Someday they'll learn the skill. Someday they'll get serious. But someday doesn't exist on the calendar. You don't find success in the fog of intention. You find it in the clear, consistent practice of preparation. Success visits those who have already prepared the guest room, those who have set the table, those who are dressed and ready when the opportunity knocks. Preparation doesn't always feel exciting. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It's repetitive, boring even. But it's the boring work that builds the brilliant result. You don't rise to the level of your intentions. You fall to the level of your preparation. When life gets hard, you don't perform based on what you meant to do. You perform based on what you trained for. That's why it matters. There's a reason top performers rehearse. Champions don't wing it. They drill the fundamentals over and over because when the lights come on, there's no time to think. There's only time to act, and if you haven't prepared, you'll freeze, you'll fumble, you'll fail. Not because you didn't want it, but because you weren't ready. And preparation isn't just skill, it's mindset. Are you mentally ready for success? Can you handle the pressure, the attention, the responsibility? Preparation builds your emotional endurance. It grows your maturity. It gives you perspective. Success can destroy people who aren't prepared for it. That's why some people sabotage themselves when they finally get a break. They weren't ready inside, so preparation is protection. It shields you from panic. It equips you for the unexpected. It keeps you from being overwhelmed. People say, I'll figure it out when I get there. No, you figure it out before you get there, so when you arrive, you're not scrambling, you're executing. Preparation creates peace in the midst of pressure. You walk in calm because you already paid the price when no one was watching. If you really want success, prove it by preparing for it. Build the habits. Build the mindset, build the skills, set your life up to handle what you say you want. Don't just dream big, prepare big. Don't just write goals, train for them. Stop looking for shortcuts. Start looking for reps. The most successful people aren't the most inspired. They're the most prepared, because when life tests you, it doesn't ask what you hoped for, it asks what you built. There's a gap between where you are and where you want to be. And if you started late in life or got distracted, delayed, or discouraged somewhere along the way, that gap can feel overwhelming. It can feel like you're too far behind to catch up, like everyone else has had a head start and you're the only one trying to make up for lost time. But the truth is, the bridge across that gap isn't luck. It isn't talent. It isn't some secret formula. It's discipline and focus. That's the only way to close the distance. Discipline is doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. It's choosing long-term gain over short-term comfort. It's saying no to distraction, no to laziness, no to excuses over and over until the results show up. Focus is choosing what matters most and giving it your full attention. Not multitasking, not jumping from one thing to another, not being busy, but being locked in, deep, concentrated energy on one clear goal. Most people don't lack potential. They lack consistency. They dabble. They try something for a few days, then stop. They get excited, then distracted. They start strong, but they don't stay strong. That's where discipline comes in. Discipline is what keeps you moving when the excitement wears off. It's what makes sure you show up whether it's easy or not. It's the quiet commitment you make to yourself when no one else is watching. Focus, on the other hand, is what makes your time count. You can work all day and get nowhere if your energy is scattered. You can be busy and still broke, busy and still behind. It's not about doing more, it's about doing the right things with precision. Focus turns time into progress. It makes every hour more valuable. And when you've lost time in the past, your only hope is to make the time you have now work harder than ever before. Discipline and focus are habits you build, not traits you're born with. You don't need to be naturally organized. You don't need to be born with self-control. You need to decide that from this day forward, you'll show up with intention. You'll train your mind. You'll structure your day. You'll remove the things that waste your time and replace them with the things that build your future. You'll stop relying on motivation and start relying on routine. One of the biggest lies people believe is that they'll feel like it later. Later never comes. You don't feel like waking up early. You don't feel like doing the hard work. You don't feel like sacrificing comfort. Discipline ignores the feeling and does it anyway because it understands that the result is worth the effort, and over time you stop needing to force yourself because it becomes who you are. When you apply focus to that discipline, something powerful happens. You stop wasting energy. You stop chasing things that don't matter. You stop listening to every distraction the world throws at you. You shut the door on noise and you get to work. Focus doesn't just help you do the work, it helps you do the right work. You become intentional, strategic, purposeful. People often say, "I wish I had more time." But more time isn't the answer. Better focus is. There are people doing in 1 year what others can't do in 10. Not because they're smarter, not because they're luckier, but because they are focused, they have clarity. They don't let other people's opinions, trends, or temptations pull them off course. They know what they want, and they give it everything they've got. Discipline and focus are like muscles. The more you use them, the stronger they get. At first, it's uncomfortable. Your old habits fight back. Distractions tempt you. Comfort calls your name, but if you stick with it, something changes. You start seeing results. You start gaining momentum. You start realizing that the gap isn't permanent. It's not fixed. It's just space waiting to be crossed, and you're building the bridge with every focused, disciplined day. There's a difference between speed and progress. You can rush around all day and stay in the same place. You can do 100 things and finish none. Focus slows you down in the right way. It says, let's do less, but let's do it better. Discipline makes sure you keep doing it day after day. That combination is what shortens the distance between where you are and where you want to be. Think of the people you admire, the ones who seem ahead in life. Look closer. You'll see the same two traits in all of them. They're not easily distracted. They're not constantly chasing the next shiny thing. They've got routines, habits, standards. They know how to say no. They don't try to do everything. They try to do a few things with excellence. That's the model. That's the path. It's not about being superhuman. It's about being consistent and clear. The real problem for most people isn't that they are behind. It's that they're unfocused and undisciplined, and as long as that's true, the gap will always grow. But the minute you truly lock in, and decide that your time is valuable, your energy is sacred, and your actions matter, the gap begins to shrink, slowly at first, but then faster, because now you're not just working, you're working smart. Now you're not just moving, you're moving with purpose. And here's something people don't tell you: discipline feels better than regret. Focus feels better than frustration. When you go to bed at night knowing you honored your time, that you put in real effort, that you moved the needle even just a little, that creates confidence, that creates self-respect, that builds identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who's always behind. You start seeing yourself as someone who's building something day by day, brick by brick. Lost time can't be recovered, but future time can be optimized. The way you make peace with your past is by honoring your present. Every focused hour becomes a small repayment. Every disciplined action becomes a statement. I may have started late, but I won't waste another minute. That mindset changes everything. It gives you back control. It gives you a roadmap, and it gives you the power to close the gap, not through fantasy, but through real, measurable progress. There's a trap that many people fall into without realizing it. It's subtle, it's quiet, but it's deadly to progress. It's the habit of comparison, looking left and right instead of looking straight ahead, watching what everyone else is doing and wondering why you're not there yet, measuring your success against someone else's timeline, judging your beginning against someone's middle, getting caught in the scroll, the feed, the highlight reel, and starting to feel behind, unworthy, discouraged. But here's the truth. Comparison doesn't move you forward. It doesn't create results. It doesn't improve your life. It just wastes your time and drains your energy. Every second you spend watching someone else's journey is a second you're not investing in your own. Every thought spent wondering why they have more is a thought you could be using to plan, build, execute. Every ounce of envy or insecurity you let grow inside you is space that could be filled with discipline, learning, or creation. Time is limited, energy is limited, and comparison steals both. It robs you quietly while convincing you it's helping. It says, look at what they've done. Why haven't you? But it doesn't give you the full picture. It doesn't show you their failures, their doubts, their late nights, their sacrifices. It just shows you the polished result, and then it leaves you feeling stuck. Action, on the other hand, is the antidote. Action takes you out of your head and puts you into momentum. It doesn't care what anyone else is doing. It says, what can I do right now with what I have? It puts the focus back on you, your habits, your choices, your goals. Action is pure, it's honest, it tells the truth, it shows you exactly where you stand. Not compared to someone else, but compared to who you were yesterday. That's the only comparison that matters. Are you growing? Are you learning? Are you making progress? No matter how small. That's how real results are made. When you live in comparison, you start living passively. You watch instead of work. You react instead of create. You wait for life to happen instead of taking charge. You become a spectator in a game you're supposed to be playing. That's not how you build anything meaningful. You can't win your race if you're always looking at the next lane. You have to lock in, you have to decide that your journey matters, not because it's perfect or fast or glamorous, but because it's yours. No one else is responsible for it. No one else can run it, and no one else will do it for you. The most successful people aren't the ones who had the best start. They're the ones who learned to stay focused on their own mission. They don't need to prove anything. They don't waste time watching others. They know that the only scoreboard that matters is the one they set for themselves. And the reason they keep rising is because they've learned to stay in action, to keep moving, to keep showing up. Whether it's easy or hard, exciting or boring, they take the next step. They make the next call, they write the next line, they put in the next hour, and over time all those actions compound. That's how results are built, not by comparison, not by wishing, not by envying someone else's success, but by quietly stacking effort on effort, day after day. It's not always impressive, it's not always visible, but it's effective. That's what matters. You can spend the next year comparing yourself to people online, or you can spend it building something worth showing. And that decision is yours every single day. Comparison also has a way of making you forget what you actually want. You start chasing things because other people have them. You start setting goals based on trends, not truth. You aim for money, status, validation, when maybe what you really want is freedom, peace, purpose. That's the other danger. You lose your clarity. You lose your authenticity. And when that happens, even if you get what you were chasing, it won't satisfy you, because it wasn't meant for you in the first place. Action, on the other hand, reveals who you are. When you take action, you find out what works for you, what excites you, what challenges you, what pulls you forward. You stop guessing, you start experiencing, you start becoming. Action shapes you into someone who no longer needs to compare because now you have direction. Now you know what matters, and that clarity is powerful. It's easy to look at someone else's success and say, I wish I had that. But what you're really saying is, I wish I had their results without their process. And you don't get one without the other. You don't get the fit body without the workouts. You don't get the business without the risk. You don't get the skill without the practice. You can want someone else's outcome, but are you willing to do their work? If not, don't compare, just start. The mind can only hold so much at once. If it's filled with comparison, it has no room for creation. That's why the most creative, productive people eliminate distractions. They don't scroll endlessly. They don't waste hours watching what others are doing. They stay locked in on their craft, on their calling, on their next step, because they know time is precious, energy is finite. And they refuse to waste either on anything that doesn't move them forward. There's no finish line for envy. You'll always find someone richer, smarter, faster, better looking, more successful. If that's your measure, you'll always come up short. But action puts the power back in your hands. It says, I may not be there yet, but I'm working. I may not know everything, but I'm learning. I may not have it all, but I'm building. That's the mindset that changes lives. Every time you catch yourself comparing, ask yourself, what action can I take right now to get better? What step can I take, even if it's small, to move toward what I want? That's how you take back control. That's how you redirect your mind. That's how you silence doubt, insecurity, jealousy. You drown it out with progress. You bury it under work. You build so much momentum that there's no time to look around. The person you're comparing yourself to isn't your enemy, but they're not your standard either. The only standard that matters is whether you're honoring your potential, whether you're using your time wisely, whether you're putting in the work day by day, no matter who's watching. Because results don't come from comparison. They come from action. They come from showing up, locked in, focused, driven, not by what others have, but by what you're becoming. There's a force in life that can make success feel easier, smoother, and more natural. It's not luck. It's not timing. It's not even talent. It's momentum. Once momentum is on your side, it starts working for you even when you're tired. It begins to carry your effort further. It adds energy to your actions. It creates flow, and the only way to get that force working in your favor is through consistent effort. Day after day, step after step, doing the work whether you feel like it or not. Momentum isn't something that just happens. It has to be earned. It's built slowly at first. When you start anything new, you feel resistance. Everything feels heavy. One step forward takes everything you've got. The mind wants to quit. The body wants to rest. You question whether it's worth it. That's the price of starting from zero. There's no wind at your back yet, no rhythm, no flow, just pure grind, but the only way out of that stage is through it. You show up anyway. You keep the promise you made to yourself. You do the work again and again until eventually something shifts. Consistency is what turns effort into momentum. One workout won't make you strong. One book won't make you wise. One day of discipline won't change your life, but stack enough of them and you start to feel the shift. What once felt hard becomes routine. What once required willpower becomes part of who you are. Momentum begins to take root. You wake up with more energy. Ideas come easier. Results start showing up. Not because you got lucky, but because you stayed consistent long enough to earn the compounding benefits of momentum. People often underestimate the power of small, repeated actions. They think success is about big breakthroughs. They wait for the perfect day, the perfect plan, the big opportunity. But that's not how momentum is created. Momentum lives in the small things you do with discipline, the early mornings, the extra hour of study, the meal you skip for your health, the temptation you resist for your goals, the habit you stick to even when it feels invisible. All those small choices are bricks. One brick doesn't build a house, but stack enough of them, and you've built something strong. That's what momentum looks like. A house built brick by brick, not overnight. Momentum is quiet at first. You don't always feel it, but the key is to keep moving, keep stacking wins, keep honoring your schedule. The hardest part is showing up when nothing seems to be happening, when there are no external rewards, when progress is invisible. But if you can stay consistent through that silence, you build internal strength. You become dangerous, not to others, but to every excuse, every weakness, every distraction that used to stop you. Because now you have momentum. There's something powerful about doing the work, even when it doesn't give you immediate payoff. You start building trust with yourself. You prove that you can follow through, that you can commit, that you don't need applause to keep going. That's how leaders are made. That's how foundations are built. Momentum doesn't come from a single moment of inspiration. It comes from consistent behavior in the absence of reward. Momentum is not just about physical progress, it's mental too. Every time you stay consistent, your identity shifts. You go from being someone who tries to someone who trains, from someone who hopes to someone who executes. That shift is subtle but profound, and it only happens through consistency. You can't fake momentum, you can't buy it, you can't borrow it, you have to build it. When momentum kicks in, your results start multiplying. You write faster, you think clearer, you attract better opportunities, people notice your energy, your habits are sharper, your confidence is deeper, everything becomes easier. Not because life got easier, but because you became stronger. Your system is dialed in, your effort is aligned, and now you're not pushing against resistance. You're riding with it, but momentum doesn't last without maintenance. Just because it's working today doesn't mean you can coast tomorrow. That's the mistake many people make. They get a little progress, then relax. They slow down. They lose the very rhythm that built their success in the first place. Momentum is precious, but it's fragile. It requires respect. You have to protect it, guard your habits, defend your schedule, stay consistent, because once you lose it, starting over is 10 times harder. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means you keep showing up even after setbacks, even after bad days, even when it's not ideal. The point isn't to never miss, it's to never quit. A stumble isn't the end. Missing one workout doesn't break momentum, but letting it turn into a week does. Missing a day of focus doesn't undo everything, but letting yourself slide into laziness will. So forgive yourself quickly, reset immediately, and get back to work. There's a discipline that comes with honoring your habits even when no one is watching. There's a power in being reliable, not just to others, but to yourself. When you say you'll wake up early, and you do. When you say you'll write the page, and you write it. When you say you'll stick to the plan, and you do. That builds a kind of inner momentum that no one can see, but you feel it. You feel stronger, more capable, more in control. That's what momentum feels like on the inside. A deep confidence that comes from earned progress. Momentum also inspires others. When people see you stay consistent, they feel it, they notice, they may not say it, but they respect it. People are drawn to momentum, it's contagious. Your discipline gives others permission to rise. Your focus becomes an example, and that creates an environment where growth accelerates, not just for you, but for everyone around you. You become a thermostat instead of a thermometer. You don't just respond to the environment, you set the standard. Most people are waiting for the right mood to take action, but high performers know that consistent action creates the mood. You don't wait to feel good to get to work. You get to work, and the good feeling shows up later. That's momentum. It's not about being inspired, it's about being consistent enough to make inspiration unnecessary. You don't rely on emotion, you rely on structure, on commitment, on showing up. Momentum is earned in the silence. In the early mornings when no one sees, in the repetitions no one counts, in the lonely hours where doubt whispers and you keep going anyway, that's where it's born, that's how it grows. And once it starts working for you, everything changes, not because the world got easier, but because you became unstoppable through consistent effort. Life doesn't hand out identical starting lines. Some people are born with more. More money, more connections, more support. Others are born with less opportunity, less guidance, less stability. But success isn't about where you start. It's about how far you're willing to go. Your starting point may shape your challenges, but it doesn't determine your outcome. Your beginning may explain your struggle, but it doesn't excuse staying stuck. The finish line is still available. It's just a longer, harder road for some. But hard doesn't mean impossible. It just means you'll need to be more focused, more determined, and more resilient than most. People get discouraged when they see how far ahead others are. They say, "Look at how far I've fallen behind." But the real question is never where others are. It's where you're going. Life doesn't reward comparisons. It rewards commitment. It rewards growth. It rewards action. Some of the most successful people in the world didn't have a head start. They had a rough start. They had pain, loss, setbacks, and doubt. But they kept moving. They kept improving. They didn't let their origin become their identity. They didn't let their story stop at chapter 1. Where you start is a factor, but it's not a sentence, it's not a limit, it's not the full story. You can rewrite the script if you're willing to pick up the pen and stay at the desk long enough. Too many people accept their start as their ceiling. They say, "This is just who I am," or "People like me don't make it." But that's just programming. It's not truth. It's fear wearing the mask of realism. The world is full of stories of people who broke through. They didn't do it by waiting, they did it by working. The difference between where you are and where you could be isn't chance, it's choice. The choice to believe you can rise, the choice to stay disciplined, the choice to build skills, surround yourself with better influences, and move forward no matter how slow it feels. That's how you change the trajectory. It's not one big move. It's a series of small, intentional ones. You take what you have and you multiply it. You make something out of it. You stretch it. You squeeze value out of every day, every hour, every opportunity. Don't confuse your current location with your permanent destination. Being broke is temporary. Being behind is temporary. Being confused is temporary. What makes it permanent is when you stop trying, when you settle, when you say, "This is just the way life is." The second you do that, you've forfeited your power. But if you wake up and say, "I may not have much, but I'm going to make something out of it," you've reclaimed control, and control is where transformation begins. The beautiful thing about life is that progress compounds. One small change done daily adds up. One habit practiced consistently builds momentum. One decision to keep going creates a chain reaction that over time becomes unstoppable. You don't need to see the entire finish line on day one. You just need to move one step closer, and the next day another. Each time you choose effort over excuse, you inch closer. Each time you reject comfort for growth, you gain ground. That's how underdogs win. That's how people with poor starts create powerful endings. Don't romanticize where others began. Don't let their early advantage make you feel inadequate. Instead, turn your energy inward, channel it. Build yourself, learn, adapt, evolve. If your start was tough, your foundation is stronger. You've learned how to survive, how to endure. Now take those same skills and apply them to your goals. Build on top of the pain. Use it as fuel. The things that made your start hard can make your finish incredible, if you don't waste them. People respect the finishers more than the starters. The world remembers those who overcame, not those who coasted. It admires the person who came from nothing and built something meaningful. It's not the easy story that inspires, it's the one filled with setbacks, struggle, and grit. So if you've had a rough beginning, understand this: your story has power, not in spite of your start, but because of it. It means your finish will carry weight. It will mean something. It will be earned. Start reminding yourself daily that your history is not your destiny. Your mistakes, your losses, your missed chances, they may explain your delay, but they don't define your limits. You can begin again. You can reframe your experience. You can rise above your environment. The key is to stop telling yourself the story that keeps you trapped. Rewrite it. Speak a new truth over your life, one that says, I am capable, I am in control, I can create my future. Most people fail not because they lacked ability, but because they accepted limitations that weren't real. They let other people's voices become louder than their own. They internalized doubts. They let fear win. But once you decide that your future matters more than your fear, you begin to take steps. You start the business. You apply for the job, you read the book, you leave the comfort zone, and with every action, you inch away from your start and closer to your vision. Even when you're far behind, forward is forward. Even when you move slowly, you're still moving. The key is to not stop. Keep learning even if you don't see results right away. Keep building even if no one notices. Keep going even if your start was ugly. Because every step forward takes you further from the past and closer to the person you're becoming. And that person is shaped by effort, not excuses, by belief, not background, by commitment, not circumstance. When others tell you that you're too late, too old, too unqualified, too behind, remind yourself that they don't decide your finish line. You do. The scoreboard doesn't care about when you started. It only records what you did with the time you had. The world doesn't reward potential. It rewards progress, and progress is available to anyone who decides to put in the work. Regardless of their beginning, the most valuable thing you can possess isn't a perfect start. It's the mindset that refuses to quit, the discipline to show up, the humility to learn, the courage to take responsibility. That's how people rise. That's how change happens. That's how the gap between where you began and where you want to go is closed.